It's probably no secret, but I am an easily excitable nerd. You should have seen me when the new Twisters movie came out. All right, that aside, I don't think there's a car I'm more excited about this year than the new Hyundai Palisade, which is kind of surprising because I'm a young 27-year-old enthusiast that doesn't have a family, but this car is such a big improvement for Hyundai in so many ways. And I promise you, this is not a paid video in any ways. This thing is awesome. Let's talk about it. And if you thought that developing a car that looks better than a Range Rover was enough of an accomplishment for Hyundai, they said, oh no, we've got one more trick up our sleeves, the XRT Pro, which is going right after the Pilot Trail Sport and even potentially a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Let's get into it. So Hyundai design lately has been really bold, and there's a lot of kind of interesting retro futurism going on. Think of vehicles like the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 5N that have these very 80s pixel themes throughout that kind of look like a Delta Integrale, but also looks very futuristic. And we see the exact same trend continue with this Hyundai Palisade. So you look at this rear end, you look at these almost stainless steel-like D-pillars, which looks very 50s, like some of the late 50s Cadillacs incorporated a similar design trend. And you see the sloping roofline, which looks a little Range Rover. So it's got some classically retro cues to it, but then it has some seriously modern design, like these taillights that have these streaks integrated. And wait until you see the front end. Look at these headlights. What you're looking at here is actually the daytime running light. These lines that start in the front and make their way all the way to the rear of the car, this is actually the daytime running light profile, and then the headlight and the high beam are located a little bit closer to the grille. And speaking of the grille, as is common with a lot of vehicles, we have that continuous light bar that runs the width of the car. But we're gonna find out shortly here that each trim of Palisade has its own unique kind of twist on it. Stepping inside the new Palisade, now as with the previous generation, there are a ton of different configurations. The one we're looking at right here is the Palisade calligraphy, and you get that little calligraphy emblem there in the headrest. Now, this is a pretty big improvement compared to the current Palisade. It's a nice interior in the 2025 Palisade, but this 26 model has given it a much more cohesive and wide-looking design that's quite a bit less segmented. Now, let's go ahead and turn the car on. You can see the start button down here. On the column shift, I'm going to push it twice. We're going to go into accessory mode, and this is how you actually change gears with this little toggle. So you spin it for reverse, spin it forward for drive. Now we are greeted by dual 12.3-inch displays here with a curved display here in the center. This is going to be very, very familiar if you're used to current Hyundai products, but we can see some of the features here, like the warming and the ventilation, also available on the second row, which is pretty cool. It's a decent system with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integrated within. Now the steering wheel, we see the 4 dots across the middle. This is Morse code for H, which is representative of Hyundai. And we're also going to find that digital 12.3-inch display, which we can change a little bit based on the drive mode. So you can see the Eco to the Sport, kind of cool there. Steering wheel buttons across both sides, paddle shifters, a little bit unusual for a hybrid, but the coolest part about this interior has to be all the ambient lighting. So we see it over here on the door, we see it across the dash, a really distinctive look. Luckily, Hyundai has kept some physical controls in here. So we do have shortcuts for home, for map, for media, all of that up here, along with both volume and 2 knobs, hooray, and then a button here for our full 360-degree camera. This is going to be a touch-sensitive panel, but you can see our controls for climate control, dual zone. We also have heated seats. We got ventilated seats. The wireless charger located back here, super easy to access. It's also, I think it's a 15-watt charger with ventilation. We have our fingerprint scanner there, and 100-watt USB-C ports here, and even a UVC sterilizer, which is kind of a nifty little feature. Now, pushing a button on the front of the console, we can see that's going to bifold open, but a very premium interior. I like this kind of hood that extends across the width of the dashboard that shields some of the screens, and it feels really elegant and premium in here. You're going to notice the sunroof situation. We have a dual sunroof setup, so a small one over the front passengers and then a much larger one over the rears, and that is going to be opening as well, which is pretty neat. Now, the Palisade has actually grown a couple of inches, both in wheelbase and overall length, right around 2.7 inches longer. You can get it in an 8-seat configuration, but this one is going to have the captain's chairs in the rear with 3 seating for the third row. Now, stepping into the rear seat, we're going to find very adequate space for knees, also doing pretty well for headroom, and then we have some climate control along with ventilated second row seats up here. Let's go ahead and see what's in this cubby. Deep, long cubby. You can also scoot the seat forward if you're going into full chauffeur mode back here. And this vehicle is also going to have the premium audio setup, which has around 15 speakers. One other thing you might notice in the second row of this Hyundai is we have a full set of relaxation seats, which means we got a lot of recline. We got some additional support in places you wouldn't expect for second row occupants. And then I'm just going to go ahead and slide into the third row here. We can check out some of the third row features. Now, this is definitely going to be a little tighter than something like a Chevy Tahoe. This is going to be more of an occasional trip, as was the current Palisade, but it does feel a little bit more roomy in the third row than the outgoing version. And some other cool things you'll notice back here, we actually can slide the third row by pushing a button. We can also recline the third row all electrically, and we even have outboard heating for the third row passengers along with USB-C charging capability. So a pretty comfortable third row, and I love that Hyundai's incorporated vents into the ceiling for the second and the third row, so you're never going to be super hot or super cold back here. That's really good thinking. Popping open the trunk of the Hyundai Palisade. Of course, we got a power lift gate back here that's going to glide open. It does kind of look like it should be a split tailgate. It's actually just a one piece. And then back here, we have some additional understore floorage. There right is going to be our tire mobility kit, and we can fold second and third row seating from the back portion there. Going to glide that close. But overall, I think that it's a nice design improvement on the interior of the Palisade, right? We see a more cohesive design, introduction of some new features, and a pretty high level of comfort in here as well. At the back of the Palisade, you're going to notice 3 cameras. Now, this is for your rearview mirror camera. This is your backup camera, but there's one more secret hidden camera located there in the rear glass, which is an event monitor. It can use a couple cameras around the car to actually record events, kind of like what a Tesla can do if someone's messing with your car, if there's an accident, and then it saves to a USB in the glove box. Pretty cool stuff. One of the big downfalls of the old Palisade was the lack of engine options, especially in a hyper-competitive segment. Well, this new Palisade has addressed a lot of those concerns with this engine. So there is still a gas V6 available. It's gone from 3.8 liters down to 3.5 liters, and I'll font the horsepower below. But this is the big news. This is the new hybrid Palisade. So this is a 2.5 liter turbocharged engine that alone makes about 262 horsepower. That's made into a pair of electric motors that make 67 horsepower, and the total system output is 329 horsepower, 339 pound-feet of torque. That's what Hyundai is estimating. 6-speed automatic transmission, no CVT here. But the biggest news about all of this is this large 3-row is targeting over 30 mpg on the highway, which is a big improvement over the current Palisade, which is 24 or 26 mpg if you get front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. And this new Palisade is going to be available once again with either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive configurations. A couple of things I want to leave with you with this new Hyundai Palisade. Couple of engine options we talked about. Now the gas version is going to be able to tow 5,000 pounds, this hybrid 4,000, and pretty much every upper trim of the Palisade is going to come standard with that integrated receiver, which is very cool. We have 10 standard airbags in this vehicle, and we also have the full suite of Hyundai driver assistance, which includes adaptive cruise control, we've got blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, all of that's going to come included in the Palisade. All right, now for something quite a bit more rugged. In the current Palisade, there is an XRT version, but it's a little bit disappointing because it's mostly just trim and graphics. However, Hyundai says this new Palisade is quite a bit more capable with this XRT Pro version, and you know it's better because it's a Pro. Let's see what that gets you. Now, when I saw the front end of this XRT Pro, I thought it was a concept vehicle because it is so bold and different, especially compared to the more luxurious trims. We've got this totally blacked out front end. We've got 3 different colors going on in the grille area alone. We've got this bright black, kind of a matte black, and then this kind of cool gray finish. And then the biggest deal in the front end of this XRT Pro, we actually have integrated recovery points. So a lot of manufacturers, when they come out with a new crossover and an off-roady version, they give it some cool looks and maybe some more aggressive tires, but they forget mechanical changes. This is a big deal. If you've ever been off-road, you've ever been stuck, or you want to help your friend out in a Subaru who got a little bit too zealous, you can do so in this Palisade XRT Pro with these tow hooks, and you know they're functional because they're orange, which is the strongest color, scientifically proven. Coming along the side of this XRT Pro, you're gonna notice a couple of changes over the standard Palisade. We gotta start with the tire group. So Hyundai's actually put a Continental all-terrain tire on it. It's a 255/60 R18. Pretty cool. You know, you can get 21s on the Palisade, but of course, if you're going off-road, you don't want those huge wheels with a small sidewall. So in the XRT Pro, you actually have a smaller wheel, which is pretty cool, and a fairly meaty tire. I believe it's a 255 with tire, 60 profile. And then we got a couple other details along the side to differentiate the Pro from the standard version. We have XRT molded into the side trim, and then we've got the roof rails up top, which looks really good against this kind of flat bronze color. There's also some suspension changes to the XRT Pro. It gets an inch additional ground clearance, which of course has the impact of better approach, departure, and breakover angle. Hopping inside the XRT Pro, things are once again a little bit different. So we have a unique pattern in the seats. We have XRT there on the headrest, and it's just a little bit more rugged of an interior. Now, Hyundai has also changed around some of the different modes in this vehicle. So now we have things like a sand, a mud, and a snow mode in this vehicle, along with a tow mode. That was one of my big complaints with other Hyundai XRT products is, yeah, they gave you a little bit more capability, but they didn't actually change the software. Well, they have for this new Palisade. Now, there are a couple of things worth noting in this Palisade XRT Pro. It doesn't have a low range. So unlike a Grand Cherokee where you can get a 4 low, this is still an all-wheel drive full-time system. It does have a different rear diff compared to the standard Palisade, although it is an ELSC, an electronic limited slip. And then the biggest miss with this XRT Pro is the lack of skid plates. Especially when vehicles like the Pilot Trail Sport have them, it's something that I think Hyundai needs to consider adding to this vehicle. Folks, I mean, I gotta finish with what the heck Hyundai. It's like this brand reinvents their design language and their style every new generation. And I kind of felt in the previous gen, the Palisade was a really luxurious and well-equipped vehicle, but it was a little overshadowed by the Telluride. This new one has completely flipped the game. This thing is an absolute stunner. On the luxury end, you kind of have a budget Range Rover, and then on the off-road end, it looks, at least visually, like it can keep up with the Grand Cherokee. So I think they've done so many good things with this Palisade, and I just can't wait to get behind the wheel and let you know what it drives like. We don't know pricing and we don't know fuel economy, but we do know that it goes on sale starting in summer of this year, the 2026 model year, with the hybrids coming later this fall. But wow, what a stunner. Folks, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Not paid by Hyundai, I'm just genuinely excited about it. As always, this has been Tommy. Head over to alltfl.com. We'll see you in the next video.